Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. My name is Shamal Darwish. I'm the Content Marketing Manager at Conversa, and thanks for taking the time out of your schedules to join us. During today's webinar, we're going to dig into mobile PPC and outline what you need to do to succeed in this arena. We're excited to have Rachael Law of Hanapin Marketing with us today. Rachael is an account analyst at Hanapin, which is a leading agency in the PPC space. They are the experts behind the popular PPC Hero blog and Hero Conference that will be hosting events in London this October and LA next April. So we're really looking forward to this presentation. We probably have some first-timers with us, so let me explain briefly who Conversa is, what we do, why we do these webinars, and then some housekeeping items before we turn the time over to Rachael. First of all, Conversa is a call tracking and marketing analytics provider. So we essentially do three things, and we do them through phone calls. The first is we provide basic call tracking data. That's so marketers can track the ads, campaigns, keywords, and channels that produce phone calls. The second thing we do is provide deep conversation analysis. So we analyze phone calls with speech recognition technology to determine what happened on the call. And then the third thing we do is marketing automation. So we can actually automate marketing actions based on the words and phrases said on the phone call. This is some pretty advanced technology, and a lot of marketers use us to optimize and streamline their campaigns. The reason we host webinars like this is because it allows us to partner with some really great companies and people. So we'll regularly have marketing experts from all walks of the marketing world join us to present on topics in their area of expertise. In terms of housekeeping items, yes, the webinar is going to be recorded, so watch for that in your inbox. We'll send a follow-up email that will have the recording. It will also be hosted on Conversa's site. Then the other thing to mention is that we do encourage you to ask questions. That's really important. So Rachael is going to give a presentation that's in the neighborhood of 35 minutes long, maybe a little longer. Then we're going to take questions for about 5 to 10 minutes. So please type those questions into the question bar, and then we'll address those. At the end of the presentation, I'll read those verbally to Rachael. So in order to practice this, why don't you just go to the question bar on your GoToWebinar screen and type in where you're calling in from today. Type in where you're located. That will give you a sense as to where we are, where everybody is, and let me get to know you a little bit better. Okay, here we go. Looks like we have someone from Chicago, Illinois. We have Michigan, Tacoma, Washington, Indianapolis, Indiana, Newmarket, England. We have San Diego, Bend, Oregon, Arlington, Texas, Buffalo, New York. We have Cape Town, South Africa. Fred from Charlotte, North Carolina, Sacramento, California, San Antonio, Texas, Massachusetts, and we're located over here in Salt Lake City, and Rachael is rocking out in Indiana. So we have a good crowd, pretty broad audience here. That's great. Very good. We're gonna get started now. So please type those questions into Rachael. And with that, Rachael, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to make you presenter now. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thanks, Gemma, and welcome everyone. Thanks for attending our webinar today on Google Plus Mobile. So this is me. I'm Rachael Law. Like Gemma said, I'm an account analyst at Hanapin Marketing. I recently spoke at HeroConf in Philadelphia, so if any of you were there, you probably saw me walking around somewhere. And I'm also a blogger on PPC Hero. And feel free to tweet at me or follow me anytime on Twitter at law_Rachael. So we welcome you to join our conversation today on Twitter. Include the hashtag ThinkPPC in your Twitter tweets. We'd love to hear from you. Or, of course, like Gemma said, use the webinar question box to send us any questions. So for our agenda today, we will begin with why mobile and why now? Isn't mobile traffic garbage? It is not all the time, and we'll go through that later. We'll also go through Mobile Strategy 101 in 3 steps: planning, implementation, and optimization. So why mobile? So you guys have probably seen this statistic all the time, everywhere. You know, mobile is a big deal. Mobile searches are on the rise. They've been on the rise for probably a few years now, as we all know. I grabbed this little statistic from Think with Google. So 82% of smartphone users turn to their phone to influence a purchase decision while in a store. So it's really important, you know, especially if you have a product that is sold in brick and mortar stores. People are searching with their phones while they're looking at your product in the store to influence that decision. Another statistic from Think with Google, 62% of smartphone users are more likely to take action right away towards solving an unexpected problem because they have a smartphone. So think of these situations where your sink clogs and you need a plumber, or you need to figure out how to fix it yourself. Most of the time, your smartphone's going to be right there in your pocket on the kitchen counter, somewhere within grabbing distance, so you can go ahead and do that search straight from your phone. So this is really important for those industries where, you know, you think of those micro moments where people need information right now. You know, I can't wait to get to my computer. So we'll jump right into our mobile strategy with our first part, which is planning. So first you'll want to evaluate your mobile presence. So this is what you're doing right now. You know, do you have mobile ads? What do your mobile ads look like? You know, how are your organic rankings on mobile? You'll want to just evaluate, you know, what you're doing. And the ad preview and diagnosis tool is a great resource for this. You'll just go in there and specify that you want to see mobile devices, and then you Apple or Android if that makes a difference to you. And you can also see what your competitors are doing too. You know, what site links are they using? Are they using call-out extensions? What's their mobile ad copy like? What are their call to actions? Definitely a good starting point is the ad preview and diagnosis tool. And this is another great way to easily check if you are running mobile ads in all of your ad groups. So this pivot here, we're looking at our campaigns and ad groups in our rows on the left. And then in the body of the pivot, that's number of ads by device preference. So we see the column for all, the column for mobile, and then the grand total. So this shows us where we're missing those mobile ads. In that red box there, we see that we've got 2 or 3 all device ads in each of those ad groups, but we're not running any mobile specific ads. So that's definitely important in terms of ad testing and just making sure that you've got all your bases covered with mobile. Next, you'll want to take a look at what conversion actions users are completing from their phones. So this is very important for businesses that have more than one opportunity for conversion. So in our example here, we have calls and then 2 types of online form completions that are options for users. And this is a report from the new Reports tab directly in AdWords. So this is super simple. It works kind of like pivot tables if you haven't used them before. It's a really simple drag and drop interface. So I really like this just to get an idea of what users want to do from their phone. And in this example, you know, we would expect a lot of phone calls from mobile because they're on their phone. They're going to naturally want to call. Probably. Not all the time, but just really important to get an idea of what those users are doing so that you can drive your mobile strategy. And you also want to evaluate your mobile performance in terms of conversions, conversion rate, conversion value, if you're e-commerce. And again, this is from the Reports tab. Super simple drag and drop. And we see here that for mobile, our return on ad spend is a bit lower, and that's typically what we expect with most e-commerce. And again, there's not one answer for everything, so every business is different, but it's just something you want to check in on, you know, see if mobile is drastically falling behind. Sometimes mobile performs better. And again, this will just help guide your strategy. And I also really love using Google Analytics to view mobile behavior. So here we have 2 different custom segments that we're using. We're using all users and then Google CPC traffic. So here we want to look at not only how mobile compares to desktop and tablet in terms of engagement metrics. So think bounce rate, pages per session, average session duration, all those fun metrics there. But we also want to see how our paid traffic compares with all mobile traffic. So this is how we gauge how qualified those mobile users are. So here we see for Google CPC and mobile, which is highlighted in this red box here, that we actually see more pages per session, a lower bounce rate, and just a slightly lower average session duration. So that's telling us that that mobile traffic that we're pulling in through paid search is actually pretty qualified. We feel pretty good about that. And behavior flow is also a great way to see what those users are doing after they click your ad and land on your website. So this shows you the actual path that users are taking through your site, which pages are they going through, and where are they dropping off. And again, this relates back to ad testing, right? So maybe your ad copy is doing a great job of getting those clicks, but that doesn't really mean much if they're dropping off right away when you want them to complete that form or look at your products on your site. So again, if they are dropping off on that first page, you might want to consider doing a landing page test to see if you get better site interaction through those mobile users. And again, think about how all of your pages look on a mobile device. And we'll get to that in just a minute. So this is a Google Analytics custom report, which if you've read my blog posts or seen my other webinars, you know that I absolutely love these. They're so handy. I use them for just about everything in Google Analytics. People think I'm a little crazy for it, but it's fine. So what you see here is a custom report for mobile queries. So we want to look at specifically what users are typing in to get to our site from mobile. And we also want to see, transactions, revenue for this particular client. Something I also like to add in here are those engagement metrics. And also site search can be something really interesting to look at if your site does have a search bar somewhere on there, like an e-commerce site. What are those mobile users actually looking for? And since we've seen a rise in services like Google Now, Siri, we find that we're getting a lot of queries from mobile that are questions. So instead of saying Target hours, people are searching what time does Target open. So if you are seeing a lot of those queries come through, you can segment those into their own ad group and their own campaign, so you can get a better gauge on that mobile traffic and control it a bit better. So for strategy, one thing you might want to start with is, what does your mobile site look like? And you might need to start here before you even think about your PPC strategy for mobile ads, because if you're sending users to a really crappy mobile site, everything else doesn't really matter because they're going to bounce out right away anyway. So definitely start here if you haven't already. And here's a good example of a pretty crappy mobile site that I found. Let's pretend that I'm wanting to take a trip to San Diego. So I search on my phone, travel to San Diego. And the first ad I see over here on the left, great. Click on that. And then I land on the site that you see on the right. And I immediately think, what is this? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What do I click on? Everything is super duper teeny tiny. The only thing that sticks out to me on this page is the dolphin and the swimmer, which is just really weird. Like, I'm looking for plane tickets, not dolphins, so you just want to make sure that you don't send someone to a page like this, or else they'll be really sad. And going along with that, you want to think what the goal is for that mobile traffic. What do you want that user to do? And again, going back to our example here, what do I do here? I don't know what the goal is. What's the conversion action on this page? Who knows? It's a mystery. Maybe the dolphin knows. And we'll talk a little bit about e-commerce here. So can a purchase be made over the phone? Can someone call in and say, send me this travel mug, here's my address? Or are your products easy to view on mobile too? This is a big one. If I'm shopping on my phone and I land on a site and I have to zoom in to see the product, that's an immediate red flag. I'm probably going to bounce out and either find a better site or wait till I can get to my desktop. And you don't want users to have that gap because they might just forget about it. So if I search for a mug and I land on your site and I can't it's not easy for me to make that purchase right away, I'm going to go about my day and maybe just completely forget about it and end up buying from someone else. So don't make your users wait like that. And shopping ads are super great on mobile. And this is an example that I found searching for a travel coffee mug. And you'll see that the first two products here in the shopping ads have a little blue banner type thing that say in store. And this is really great for mobile because if I'm out and about, doing my daily errands and I see that, oh, Kmart has this and I'm 2 miles away from Kmart, I'll just hop in and grab it instead of ordering online. Something that's definitely new and exciting from Google. And another thing going along with e-commerce is don't forget your checkout process. When a user is trying to fill out a form on their phone, I know me personally, if the form is too tiny, like my thumbs are too big and like I have to zoom in, and if the keypad for numbers don't come up, like it's super clumsy. So definitely don't forget to optimize your checkout process. Make it super easy to read and to fill out for users who are on their phones. You have to remember that these phone screens are pretty tiny, so make it easy. And then going along with that for lead gen, just like e-commerce, can a user become a lead over the phone? And what do those leads look like? Are they more qualified, less qualified? Make sure you have a strategy around that as well. And what dictates an actual qualified lead over the phone? And if users can convert over the phone, do you have the resources for any increased call volume that you might get from developing a mobile strategy? You might start all these wonderful mobile preferred ads and get tons of calls, but if you don't have anyone to take those calls, your customers aren't going to be too happy because they're going to be put on hold forever and ever, and then everyone's sad. And use appropriate call to actions too. If you want someone to call, make sure your ad says call. It's pretty simple stuff, but a lot of the times we forget those simple things, to make our ads that much more effective. And then in terms of platforms, how are you bidding right now on mobile within Google, Bing, Facebook, any platform that you're on? So think about that, and then after you optimize those platforms, you might want to consider if it makes sense for your business to expand to mobile-friendly platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Those are all very, very mobile-friendly platforms. So again, this is going to depend on your product, your business, your budget as well. But it's definitely something that you might want to work into your mobile strategy at some point down the line. So add it to your list. Don't forget about it. You don't want to be left behind, because then you'll be sad. It's a very sad webinar, apparently. So now we'll go into the implementation phase of our mobile strategy. So number one, I've probably beat you over the head about this already, but you want to write good mobile ad copy. The biggest takeaway here is to test. Test everything. Test putting your call to action in the headline versus the very front of the description line 1. Test using mobile-friendly language such as shop from your phone. And also test mobile-specific display URLs as well. Try the / mobile. And then, of course, check out what your competitors are doing. So what does a good mobile ad look like? So this is an example. Let's pretend this time like I want to go to Amsterdam. So I do another search on my phone. And this top ad actually looks pretty good. You'll notice that they have that mobile-specific language in the description line. Book through your phone today. They also have the call extension button and then /mobile in their display URL. So when I see this ad, the first thing that pops into my mind is it takes up a lot of room on my phone. This ad almost dominates the search engine results. And not only does it take up a lot of space with those ad extensions that they're using pretty much every one that they can, I think, which is pretty impressive. But they do use that mobile language, and they make it really easy for me to call if I want to call. So this is just a good ad. And a not so great one. So recently here in Indiana, we had a pretty bad hailstorm, and unfortunately my car got some hail dents. It was a bummer, but I searched on my phone to see how much it would cost to get it repaired, and then this ad came up, and it says, car repair, great selection of tires. Nowhere on this ad does it actually mention hail. So why would I want to click on an ad to get my tires fixed, or new tires, when I need my hail dents to be repaired? So again, this ad has no mobile language, no mobile call extensions. And it's not even relevant to my search. So this is like PPC 101. Make sure your ads are actually relevant to the queries. And again, make sure you're using all those extensions that you can, especially on mobile. So here's another kind of cool example. So this is a search for lawn service in Indianapolis. And when you compare the first ad to the second ad, you notice how important it is to be at the top of the page on a mobile device, and also how important it is to use all of those mini ad extensions that are available to us. Because this ad at the top for TrueGreen just sticks out way more than the two below it. Those are almost like afterthought ads. You don't want to be the afterthought ad. Make sure you're showing at the top and that you've got all those extensions. Again, you want to make it easy for your user. And call-only ads are really great if you're driving phone calls specifically. If you don't even want the user to go to your site, if you just want to get them on the phone, these might be really great for you to test. So you notice that the headline, instead of actually being a headline, it says call and then it's got your phone number right in there. So more recently I implemented this in an account where we were getting a lot of queries for the brand's phone number. And so we added a specific call-only ad campaign so that we can funnel all of those queries to that call-only ad so that they can call right from their phone. They just have to click that link. So again, it might not work for you, but definitely test it because we like testing things. And again, this slide pretty much just rehashes what we've talked about with the available ad extensions. Real estate's at a premium on mobile devices. If being at the top is really important for your business, just from a branding perspective, definitely make sure you're using those extensions so that you can be at the top and take up a ton of space. And then mobile bid modifiers. So here at Hanapin, we've seen a lot of accounts come in with like negative 80% mobile bid modifiers just because, you know, when mobile first started getting big, they didn't know how to do it, performance was crappy, they didn't understand it, so they just slapped on that negative modifier and just kind of set it and forget it. We don't like set it and forget it, so if you've been running those for a while, try lowering them or taking them off completely just to see what you've got. But before you do that, make sure you have your mobile ads and everything in line and you have a good mobile site before you take that off, because then you'll be sad again. You don't like to be sad, like this guy. So another thing to keep in mind if you're running display and you are running on mobile is to exclude these mobile apps. So here's an example where all of the combined mobile apps for this account spent $8,000 at a $350 CPA. Their goal CPA is somewhere about $25 to $30. So Tobey Maguire is very sad in this picture because look at all that wasted money, you guys. You don't want to do this. Of course, if you think mobile apps might be a relevant placement for your business, by all means try it, but just keep an eye on it. Don't let it run forever without checking on it, because then you'll be sad like Toby. And a lot of the times what we do see with these mobile apps is particularly parents with small children will let their kids play games on their phones and then oops, they click on those ads. And I don't think those kids are qualified customers for any of your businesses, so we don't want that. So the answer here is to just exclude them, and this is super easy within the campaign settings. At the very bottom is Gmom mobile app non-interstitial, so you'll want to exclude that as well as the in-game one that's a little bit above in that type of placement category. And once you exclude these, you'll be happy, Tobey Maguire, and all will be well. So wrapping up strategy here, if it's applicable, optimize your site, make it mobile friendly, and you want to make any modifications that you can to increase your site speed. A lot of the time, if we see a super high bounce rate or any swings in bounce rate or time on site, we want to check on that that site speed within Analytics to make sure that nothing changed with the site to make it super slow. In general, people don't like slow websites, but even more so when you're on your phone. Because when you're on your phone, you kind of expect things to be super fast and to just work. So when they are slow, people get really impatient and just bounce out or close their browser. And then again, test everything. Test those mobile-friendly platforms, again, if it makes sense. Yeah. So moving on to tracking. So tracking is hugely important in understanding the value of your mobile traffic. So we generally see there are three kind of buckets of conversions. So we've got the online forms or sales, and then phone calls from ads, and then calls from your website. So this is where call tracking comes in. You know, without call tracking, the user might search on their mobile device, browse your site for a minute or two, and then you don't really know what happens after that. Maybe they call you, maybe they hated your site if it wasn't mobile preferred. Who knows? But with call tracking, we see that that user actually searched on their mobile device, looked at your site, and then called the number that was listed on your site. And then through our call tracking,
Hey, Rachel. Rachel, I think we lost you there.
platform, whichever one you choose, there are tons out there. They all have their pros and cons. You can bid on valuable stuff. So now we'll go on to optimization. So for measuring performance, there is a feature in Google Analytics called benchmarking, which is pretty great. Take it with a grain of salt. Anything you see in here is just data that's aggregated by Google. So don't take it as absolute truth, but it's a good benchmark, exactly what it's meant to be, for how you stack up against other companies in your vertical. So up at the top here, they give you an option to select the vertical, the country, and the size of the website by daily sessions. So Google will, by default, try to pick the best one for you. In some cases, they are right on the money, but other cases, you have to go in and change that vertical to something more specific that actually fits your business. And I've also had instances where I've had to adjust this size by daily sessions as well. So make sure you're changing those so you can get the most accurate information. And then in the bottom screenshot here, we see our performance by device category. And then the colors here, so the shading in the boxes and the arrows, represent how you stack up against the competition. So we see here for mobile, this particular account is doing better in terms of sessions and new users, but actually a little bit worse in terms of engagement, so pages per session and session duration, compared to what Google thinks are other competitors in the industry. So again, this is just kind of a cool thing to look at if you're curious. And then metrics to measure. So of course you're going to want to look at conversions and phone calls, but don't forget about those engagement metrics like we talked about before, because these are really going to be your metrics for qualified visitors. So that bounce rate, time on site. This is especially important if your mobile traffic doesn't really convert all that well. You'll definitely want to pay attention to the engagement metrics to see if you're bringing in qualified visitors that might search on their phone and then convert from their desktop later. And we can't always track that. There's no real awesome solution to tracking those cross-device conversions. So definitely keep an eye on those. And along with that, since it can be so difficult to tell if someone is starting the search from their phone, finishing on their desktop, note changes in overall conversion volume when changes to mobile are being made. So say you were one of those that had a negative 80% bid modifier, and then you took it off, set it to 0, and then you see a huge spike in conversions. That can definitely be attributed to your mobile strategy. Maybe not, it could be something else, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And the inverse is true as well. If you change your mobile ad copy or bid down on mobile and you see your overall conversions start to dwindle off, definitely consider going back to your mobile ads and changing those back. It's not a science, it's an art, but we like it. And you'll also want to make sure you're checking on your mobile strategy and your performance regularly. So something I like to do, and a lot of us do here at Hanapin, we'll actually put appointments on our calendars to remind ourselves to check in on whatever initiative that we just launched. So here I'd schedule a check-in for mobile performance after I changed a mobile strategy for a particular client. And again, this doesn't have to be a half hour. It could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes, just a quick little reminder to get you back in that account and looking at ad performance. Or if you don't want to go that route, you can have alerts automatically sent to you, like magic in your inbox. This is in Google Analytics, so these are custom alerts. So you'll just go in there and you can specify what the alert applies to and then the conditions for that email to be sent. And I will say one thing about these automated alerts. You want to make sure that the threshold that you're setting for it to send the email is high enough that it's actually like a problem or something to look into. If you set it too low, then say you'll get this email every single week. And what happens when you get the same email every single week? You ignore it. You don't even open it, you just hit the delete button. And so you never really know when you actually do need to get in your analytics account and take a look at that performance. So definitely consider doing this. So for performance, just a quick checklist. Look for any changes in performance, the good and the bad. If performance is going in the bad direction, that's a red flag. You want to go in and see what you can change, what you can optimize. But if it's good, you know, pat yourself on the back. You're doing a good job. And you also want to look at mobile conversion, CPA, revenue, bounce rate, all those metrics. See if they're moving in the right direction. Compare your mobile performance to desktop. Compare your paid search mobile to organic mobile, direct mobile. Compare all the numbers. And don't forget to test your mobile ad copy. Again, I've beat you over the head with it, but it's really important, you guys, because your ads are the one part of your advertising that actually interacts with the user. Think of it like a handshake, right? You meet someone new, you want to set a good impression. So please, please, please don't neglect your mobile ad copy. And then for overall strategy, once a month or so, and again, this depends on your particular account, you want to make sure that you'll check in that your overall strategy for mobile still makes sense for your business. So like we mentioned before, if you can't handle additional phone calls, you'll have to go back to your mobile strategy, maybe push for a form download or a purchase online or something like that. But really, I just have this on here because I don't want you guys to just kind of forget about it. You should be analyzing your strategy all the time, and that applies to mobile too. It's definitely not something that you can set it and forget it. And that is it. Q&A time, guys. Get excited.
Awesome. We lost you for like a minute there, Rachel, and you know, we had some comments saying that people were sad, like Toby, to have lost you. So it seems like they really enjoyed your presentation.
I'm sad like Toby, you guys too.
All right. Okay, well, you know, if you guys have any questions, just type them in and we can get started with those, and we'll try to answer them before we end the webinar today. I have a question for you, Rachel. So, you know, you discussed, you know, the different types of conversions that you can get from mobile, and a lot of those were on the phone. So how would you measure, like, what would qualify as a conversion on mobile? Is that just a
Yeah.
phone call for you, or are you thinking where someone actually calls and sets an appointment? What types of things do you look for there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this, I think, really depends on the account. So I've seen some accounts where they count a phone call from a mobile ad that's over, say, 2.5 minutes or whatever that typical threshold is for a good quality phone call. I've also seen lead forms from mobile phones. So it can be really almost anything that you would track as a desktop conversion, with the addition of those phone calls too.
Okay, good. We have a question that's asking, do we have any significant changes in approach from Google to Bing or Facebook?
Ooh, that's another great question. I would say in general, Google and Bing strategies are going to be very similar. Bing doesn't always have the cool extensions and betas and everything that Google has, so keep that in mind, but generally the approach will be the same. And Facebook is kind of a whole other beast of strategy. Um, yeah, I can't really speak to that directly. We have a Facebook guy here at Hanapin that's our Facebook guru. Um, so I'm not really sure what the mobile strategy looks like for that. I know carousel ads have been pretty big recently, but I can follow up about that. I don't have any more information for that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it seems with Facebook that they're getting more mobile friendly with their advertising, with their, call buttons for local businesses and stuff. So that's probably a big area. Okay, here's another question from Dante. He is asking if you can recommend a good source for mobile-friendly copywriting examples.
Ooh. So I'm sure we have a few articles on PPC Hero about mobile specifically. Um, I'm trying to think of any other resources that we use in-house. We also have a resource library that has a lot of white papers, toolkits, guides, things like that. Search Engine Land is also just in general a great place to look for any advice PPC.
Great. So, I mean, they can probably find some good stuff on your blog, right? So.
Yeah, and we actually just launched a white paper about 5 ways to deliver the best mobile experience. So if that's, yeah, and it has ad copy examples in there if you'd like to check that out.
Good. Okay, and we have another question from Natalie. She's asking, which is better practice when writing a display URL for a mobile ad? Should you use example.com/mobile or m.example.com?
Sure, and I've definitely seen both work. That's something that I really recommend testing against each other. So either just do a split test with two different ads, or you can use, Google just released an ad variations beta where you can split your traffic 50-50 and test different display URLs. I can't give a blanket statement and say one always works better than the other because every account's different. So I'd say definitely test it. Personally, I think I prefer the /mobile rather than the m dot. That's just me. It might not work for you. Test it out.
Dante is asking again if you have the URL for your blog so that he can check out those copywriting resources.
Sure. So the blog is just ppchero.com, and then white papers and all that are in our resource library that's at hanapinmarketing.com, and then you'll click on resources in the top menu.
All right, and we have another question from Bill. He's asking, for home remodeling, would you expect that the conversion would be higher or lower than desktop?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I would think that that would have a good chance of performing well on mobile, but again, I can't really say whether or not it would work better or worse. So again, you just have to test it out. Sorry, that's kind of a cop-out answer, but you have to test everything.
Yeah. All right. How do you start tracking through AdWords for phone calls? That's from Ian.
Sure. So if you go into the conversions tab in AdWords, if you go to add a new conversion, there is actually an option to add a conversion action as a calls from ads. And it's pretty easy to set up. Once you get into that menu, it kind of walks you through it.
All right, awesome. Let's see. We've got one more question here. It says, we are running call-only ads for lawn care companies, and we aren't getting much action. Bad vertical for lawn care. We're testing between form, call-only, and mobile. So do you have any suggestions for them?
I guess my only suggestion without actually looking at the account would be to take a look at what kinds of keywords you're running those call-only ads from. Because some keywords might work better for a call-only ad just because the user intent's a little bit different. So if someone's searching for, like, find a lawn care company, that person's probably going to want to call. Whereas someone just looking for, like, pricing, like a price list, might not want to actually, they might not be ready to call. So think about your funnel that way. If someone's ready to schedule a service, you know, that might be good for your call-only ads. But if they're just wanting to see what their options are, then they might want to go to your website first.
Okay, and we've got another question from Devin. He's asking, how do you find, what's the difference between B2B and B2C clients when it comes to mobile performance?
Ooh, that's kind of tricky to answer. I think generally we've seen more success on mobile with B2C because B2B, it's more people searching while they're at work and they're on their computer. And generally, I would imagine they're not searching on their phones as much. And again, you don't want to completely exclude mobile because it still could be happening, but generally, I think we get a lot more mobile action from B2C.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I think, the B2B space is also experiencing a lot more action with mobile. Like in the last 2 years, there's probably been like 3 times as many mobile queries for business-related things with B2B, but yeah, B2C is definitely a bigger market there. And we have another question from Thomas. He's asking, how do you start if just starting to use Google Analytics and getting ready to do your first paid campaign on desktop and mobile?
Ooh. So I would say if you're just starting a campaign, I wouldn't do any mobile modifiers or anything, but have mobile specific ads. And I would generally start with the same copy that you're running for all devices. And then once you get some data, then I would go in and start testing those mobile ads separately from your desktop ads, because different messaging works on different platforms and devices. So that's where I would start. And then again, just making sure you're keeping an eye on all those important metrics in AdWords and in Analytics. And make sure you've got call tracking if you don't have that yet. It's really important.
Yeah, for sure. All right, it looks like we've got all the questions. We're getting some good feedback on that. So thanks for sharing that with us, Rachel. That was a good, 45 minutes. And is there anything you'd like to add before we close up shop?
No, thank you all for attending. We really appreciate it. And again, tweet at us, #ThinkPPC. Follow me on Twitter if you want to. And then we have 2 avenues for feedback for Hanapin and Conversa, and those websites or those emails are listed here.
Okay, and this webinar has been recorded, so we're going to send that out in an email today or tomorrow. So watch for that, guys. And thanks again, everyone, and thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
All right, bye.